Hey Sharon, great to catch up. Thanks for joining. I thought it'd be good to catch up ahead of the big summit next week here in Sydney. You are the SVP of product for AI at commerce.com. So for me, there's two big topics that come through for commerce.com at the moment. What's the deal with the rebrand? What's happening over there? So I'm keen to get some backstory from you, and also what's happening in AI. What's commerce.com doing around this new era of AI, and what are you guys doing to support retailers as they go to market with a whole lot more channels to work with? So keen to hear from you.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me first, and we're really looking forward to the event. I think it's going to be great. Well, let's start with the rebrand then. I think a little bit of context. So I've been at Commerce for 6 years. So I joined originally to lead the relationships with our largest channel partners. So Google, Meta, Amazon, TikTok, all of those. And that background helps, I've had like a front row seat to see how, what our merchants need in order to succeed in kind of like what we called an omnichannel world. And now I think we're entering this AI era. And what's really interesting is the data needs are evolving. And so what, the rebrand is, it's not cosmetic, it's structural. We knew that we needed, in talking to our customers, we work with 30% of the internet retailer 1000, and then, thousands of merchants on the BigCommerce platform across 3 different product lines: Feedonomics, BigCommerce, and MakeSwift. And what became really clear is although all of these brands are recognizable, what we wanted to do was really, put together and come into the truth of the fact that when we bring them together, they're so much more powerful than they are apart. And so commerce is really about that umbrella offering where we can bring solutions together that bring the best of each of those to our customers. So for example, we know that as we've entered, kind of this AI era, data is the new storefront, right? Like if you now need to make sure that your products are discoverable on new channels like ChatGPT and Perplexity and all of these answer engines that are happening and emerging, e-commerce is just one of the channels that you're powering when you need to think about that catalog data that you need in order to power this experience that might happen anywhere your shoppers are. And so some of the new truths that we're contending with in terms of delivering a good experience for merchants to be able to help them be discoverable, ultimately acquire customers and increase their GMV across channels, is really about they needed better data. And then we've got a market leading solution that works with the largest brands, in the world. And we needed to bring that to more to the front, because that data orchestration is so critical in this new AI era. And that, bringing that data together, enriching it using AI in order to optimize that data and then get it to all the channels where everybody is going to be so much more important than it ever even was before, because now so much of that product discovery is happening on these answer engines. That owned experience obviously is going to be critical, continue to be critical, and it's going to need to evolve, for our BigCommerce customers, that are leveraging Stencil capabilities or MakeSwift. And so I think bringing those together, we've integrated the teams. The go-to-market team is unified. The product team, I report to Vipul Shah, who's the chief product officer across all of those products for commerce. The engineering teams are unified, and we're finding a lot of leverage and benefit associated with bringing our understanding of that data together that can really unlock the kind of tools that will be needed for this kind of new AI era.
Cool. Yeah, I'm really excited, like for the company, because we've worked with BigCommerce for years, and Feedonomics as well. But
Yes.
I think what we've all been looking to see is that kind of how the tech comes together, and
Yep.
I think like really marking this time as AI is now here. We've got a whole new era. What does this all look like? And seeing that you guys are really, I guess, structurally changing for that new paradigm is really exciting. So I guess what I want to do is maybe delve into the AI space a little bit. Like for me, I see like there's some different areas of AI. There's the sort of product discovery changes that are happening, and keen to get your thoughts on what are those numbers that you're seeing? Like what are the behavior changes that we're seeing? The data management, AEO, SEO, GEO, like there's all these new acronyms we've got to get across. So, but I love the idea of answer engines. So I think I really like AEO for that. But keen to sort of hear your thoughts on that. And then also, like, what is agentic commerce? What, agents shopping on behalf of customers? Is it a B2C thing? Is it more a B2B thing? I'm just really keen to sort of understand, like, what are you guys thinking about over there?
Yeah, I love this question. And I think we think about it in eras, because right now, or historic, like our most recent past, we've been in this kind of like shopper to merchant era where Sharon wants to go and shop on a website. So she goes to anthropology.com and, or maybe she Googles something and it plops us on a .com experience and we sort and filter our way to find the dress that I'm looking for. We're now entering this agent to merchant era where Sharon goes to a shopping agent like a Perplexity or a ChatGPT, and I say, I'm going to and the behavior has changed. 60% of people are using these AI platforms in order to search for products, right? And so what's really interesting is that behavior is now long form queries. So I'll actually be talking with Google at the summit about this, but we've seen this huge change where instead of saying, size 10 dress linen in a search box, I might say, okay, I'm going to my friend's wedding in Italy and it's going to be hot and I want it to be made of linen and I'm looking for a size 10 and something in a pastel because I don't want to compete with the bride and I want it to be under $300, right? As an example of something that we might put in a query. And that answer engine agent is going out to the internet and it's understanding of what it already knows and it's remembering brands that might help me answer my question. And so that becomes this really interesting opportunity that has to exist for merchants where they're losing traffic that. And so in this new era, one of the new truths is that they need better data because that data is being surfaced to these channels wherever the answer, wherever they shop, and it's either being scraped or it's being sent straight to the veins using something like a feed, like via, a merchant center or a direct feed in order so that the answer engine can say your brand's name. And that's where the product discovery happens. So we call that agentic search. Agentic channels need good data. And some of those channels are new, like ChatGPT and Perplexity. So they don't have years and years of being an ad platform like Google, Gemini, or Microsoft Copilot have, right? Where they've got this grounding data that lives within a merchant center that they can leverage in order to power these experiences. And so that means that merchants need to invest in understanding, okay, what kind of content provides the best context to these answer engines to say my name versus my competitor's name. And that's obviously an area where we're focused on. So like one of these, I call them the axioms for the AI era. It's like one of these things that we need to remember is, what do you need? And the answer is better data. And then the next truth is that you need it everywhere people shop. The customer is the channel, wherever they are, whether they're on ChatGPT or whether they're scrolling through TikTok or whether they're, a loyalist who comes to your site all the time, wherever they are is the channel. And so we need to get the data to the channels wherever they are. So that becomes how do you control and syndicate quality data at scale to all the places where your shoppers are. And then the next truth that we've kind of uncovered is, we built the internet for humans to use it. And now we've got, and we used to be like, are you a human or a robot? And like, like CAPTCHA is built for like, no robots. But now we actually have good robots, right? So like, are you a good robot or a bad robot? How do we know that agents are customers too? They're buying on behalf of customers in some cases here. And so how do we write the new rules of the internet to make sure that that's a trusted handshake where we know who the shopper is? Because fraud is a thing, right? And so how do we know who the shoppers are? How do we know who the agents are? And how do we make sure that checkout happens in a nice, trusted way? So you said that you asked a question like, what is agentic commerce? In our view, it's agentic discovery, so search, agentic search. It's agentic checkout. And so a lot of the ways that is going to be established are kind of being written right now. It's all fairly new. And we're working with, the leading partners that you would expect we would need to in order to be able to kind of author those new rails. And then I think the next era, as we move, kind of from shopper to merchant, it's an agent to agent. So eventually Sharon is going to have I might be working with ChatGPT or Perplexity, and I'm going to be able to say, I'm looking for this dress. And that agent is actually going to say, I'm going to go query a bunch of merchant agents who already know all about this product, and they already know Sharon. Because Sharon already shops at Anthropology. She's got loyalty with them. She spent thousands of dollars there. Let's go have a conversation where that logged in, understanding who you are experience is already happening, where those agents can interact on our behalves. So you have a shopper agent and a merchant agent kind of interacting to make that transaction happen for the best outcome for both parties. And that's kind of where we see it going in the future. So when we talk to like the CIOs of the world and they're thinking about how can I launch experiences, my own brand agent, for example, that is, that knows all about my company and my users, my shoppers and my products, and make that exposed and easy to access. And that's where you start to see protocols like A to A emerging. So what are we doing about it? I think is a really good question. We are releasing new products. You've seen, you may have heard about the release of Feedonomics Surface. We actually brought Feedonomics directly into the BigCommerce platform so that all of our customers can take advantage of the data enrichment capabilities of Feedonomics and send quality data to channels like Google and Meta. And that's directly within, and it's free for BigCommerce customers. So we're already bringing those, we talked about like how it was the rebrand was structural. That's a really good example of how we brought the technology teams together to offer, a powerful experience for BigCommerce customers. But when we think about like what are we doing in this era, we're releasing new product, right? So we will be discussing at the summit the new MCP that we've released with our AI Labs developer beta program that can power these agentic experiences where we can surface catalog data to agents so that they can query and interact with data that lives within a merchant's site in order to be able to power these agentic experiences. So that's available in beta for AI Labs developers. We can provide a link where people can sign up to apply to that closed beta. We've released data enrichment powered by Feed AI. So that's the ability for us to leverage AI directly within the Feedonomics platform to automatically categorize, rewrite titles and descriptions, create attributes. It takes a lot of time and energy in order to create quality data. And so if we can put AI to work to do that on our behalves based on what we know the channels need to drive the best outcomes, obviously we're doing that with our customers. So that's data enrichment with Feed AI. And then our agentic search offerings. So we've talked a little bit about, and some have seen maybe our public announcements with partners and folks like Perplexity, where we are sending quality data, both structured and unstructured, to some of the answer engines in order to be able to help, increase discoverability and for brands who are excited and are starting to see increased traffic from some of these new emerging channels. We've also released translations, AI translations within the BC platform as well as within Feedonomics and MakeSwift. So there's a number of different features that we're releasing, and I think I'm pretty excited because this new AI era offers so many opportunities for us to improve the data, get it to the places where your shoppers are, and make sure that we do it in a way that addresses the needs of both humans on those experiences as well as agents, so that we can offer agentic experiences for shoppers.
Awesome. Yeah, there's so much to unpack there. Maybe one thing I want to ask, you mentioned feeds to Google and Meta, and then you've also got those ChatGPT and Perplexity feeds. Are they similar in conceptually? Is it all about like feeding data to these platforms where people are doing their discovery? Is it a similar concept?
Very similar. So anybody who's been, pushing feeds to Google and Meta for years to power product listing ads knows that there's like title, description, image, color, like there's all these attributes and they're structured. So that structured data, that's very similar, right? They need the same thing because anytime you're surfacing a shopping experience, like within, if you shop, if you go to a shopping experience within Perplexity or ChatGPT and they surface a product card and it has information where it looks like a product card, they had to get that data from somewhere, right? They either scraped it or they got it directly from the merchant. And that information is what provides an offer, right? Hey, this product in this variant is available at this price and has inventory available, right? As an example. And so when we think about the data that is needed to power that, that's the structured data. The unstructured data that is new. That's the stuff where LLMs can consume data. So when we think about like, we had an example with Revelist, who, they're a global brand, adventure sports brand. We work closely with them. We work with Urban. We work with Dell on these same kind of initiatives. And it's about how do you understand what data you need to provide that might not be structured, but might provide the LLM context to say your name versus your competitor's name. So for example, I'm looking for a new riding helmet because I ride in the Rocky Mountains versus the Pacific Northwest. What's the best helmet for that I should be looking for, as an example. Or I'm looking for the best pair of shoes for a woman with flat feet or plantar fasciitis or something like that, right? These kinds of queries, that data might not be living in your current structured Google feed. But what we do is we kind of call this like levels of data maturity. So like level 1 is like what you send to Google. Level 2 are the attributes that you send to a marketplace. So if you're listing products on Amazon, there's all that additional data. We can bring that together. Level 3 data is things that might be in your PIM, your owned systems of record, where you as the manufacturer of the product know a lot about it. Where did it come from? What is it made of? What materials is it? Like, all of that kind of information that might not be on a product detail page, but is available and could help make, somebody who's looking for information, help make their decision easier. As well as unstructured data. So things like reviews, things like fit guides, all of that kind of information that's contextual. Hey, why should you buy this versus this? Or why is this Dell laptop better than this one for, a girl who's going to college? Like those kind of experiences. So when we think about what data we send, the data that is similar is the structured data that, the ads platforms have been consuming for, decades. But the unstructured data is new because LLM technology, this new technology can consume and remember and process such different kinds of content. And that context becomes really important. And, it's all news. So we're figuring out in partnership with the various different channel partners, like what really moves the needle. But I think what's exciting about it is there's really big opportunities because it's all about context you can provide around why this product versus another.
Okay. So, I mean, if I think about SEO, it's always been about like optimization of keywords that are really important. And people have been searching with keywords. Now they're asking questions and they're wanting answers. So is it about preparing content like around those sort of that level 3 content? Is that all about providing good answers to questions that people have about products? Like, is it all about that, like blogs and, videos and transcripts and all those sort of things that you can like feed into the LLMs, or I guess post on your content for the LLMs to scrape?
Yeah, because they get it 2 ways, right? Yeah. It's both, I would say, is the summary. Like you have to be doing both. You have to understand, okay, so these agentic services are scraping the internet to understand and process and consume that data. Some of them are consuming feeds directly, that is the structured data. That at any, because things that change a lot, like pricing or availability of inventory, that's like what we call like the hot data that you need to be able to like make sure that that's in stock right now at that price, because it's a really bad shopper experience if they ask a question about a dress and you link them to something that is not in stock or not available or all those things, right? So the answer is it's both. You need to be both investing in structured data that is going to anywhere someone is shopping, right? Any agentic experience, whether it's an on-site search experience that you yourself own and power, or whether it's a third-party experience on something like ChatGPT. As well as unstructured data that may exist within your, investing in creating that content that lives across surfaces, right? It's a combination. You've seen the sources that are kind of referenced in a lot of this. How can you have a, kind of a combination of a content PR strategy where third-party validation, where people are talking about some of these problems or these use cases for your products, and that you're showing up in kind of the collective consciousness of the internet in order to be able to say, yes, my product is validated there. So things like user reviews, or how can you, invest in making sure that the content signals that an answer engine is consuming can say your name versus your competition. And that's really, I think, when we think about, AEO, that's where we spend our time. And that has to be across both owned experiences as well as the data that is syndicated or propagated across third party, as well as kind of the strategies that you have around getting the community to engage with your content and validate your offerings.
So is the, what would you recommend a retailer does with that sort of tier 3 level? Is it like getting content on their own site and that can be scraped, or is it getting content on other community sites that give those answers about products that they sell? Like what's the strategy there?
Yeah, I think there's a number of different strategies, and there's kind of this fun new emerging technology category as well that's come out with kind of this, because a lot of the answer is we don't know yet, right? Because it's so new. It's been like the past, like 8 to 10 weeks that essentially a lot of this traffic is kind of transitioning. And so the fact that, we're seeing the trends, but not all of us have like the answer around, hey, this is what if you do this, the outcomes will be XYZ. Whereas we've had like, decades worth of SEO optimization strategies in place. So I think the fun part is it's a little bit new. And so a lot of it is like test and learn and measure and understand. And like, when we think about what are some of the areas and how are people engaging, there's this new technology category emerging. If you've heard of someone like Profound or Scrunch, they're actually simulating what some of these queries might be, pushing them against against these answer engines, coming back with like what the answer would be if Sharon had asked that question, and then ranking your content and then helping you build an AI brief that essentially could help you author new content and on what to consider. So the fact that these new categories of partners are even emerging to help people think about this problem is really interesting. And I think the answer is because a lot of us just don't know yet, because a lot of these channels, they don't have like analytics APIs yet where we can consume and actually prove that. So really the truth is in this, like back to the A/B testing, like when you make a change, what was your baseline? What did you see change? Was that a good change or a bad change? So I think it's really about identifying what some of those strategies are, working with partners who can help you be flexible and agile in order to control and make those changes and then really measure that. And I think that's one of the areas that we're deeply investing in, obviously on the Feedonomics side, is helping make sure that we give people control of the data they're sending to the various different channels so that when they make those changes, they can measure what the outcomes were in terms of effectiveness. So
yeah, it's really, it's all everyone's learning as we go, and but so it's really great to hear from you because you've really got your finger on the pulse there and working with the platform. So it's good to sort of hear direct from you. Maybe just on the agentic commerce piece, do you see that being B2C and B2B? Like, do you see it being more important for B2B? Like, because I kind of see like, when it's someone's job to procure a product, surely that's something that could be automated with agents when there's like certain specifications. It's not really so much of a personal, emotional, decision.
Right.
So I'm just thinking how you guys think about that. Is it both channels, both types of customers?
I think that B2B has been considered something of a laggard in the direct to consumer era, like of getting on. It took a while for them to get online, but there's reasons for that. It's because there's complexity in B2B. I think that agentic commerce is one of the biggest opportunities that B2B brands have to kind of like leapfrog, because a lot of the complexity is because the data is complicated. Like configure, price, quote is an entire thing. And it's because there's a lot of different permutations of configurations and data and what parts do you need to go with these other parts. And so there's complexity that historically structured kind of catalog data didn't really solve for. And I think in this new era, we're really excited to see how AI can kind of help this, and we're working through a number of really exciting tests. I think we demo a use case around how a brand agent could be launched leveraging BigCommerce and the MCP that we've released in order to have an experience where we show this experience where a buyer is actually able to drag a PDF of a purchase order that they received directly into an agent. The agent's able to build the cart and they're able to check out seamlessly. They just reduced a whole bunch of the friction associated with having to do that, because otherwise, either a salesperson or the buyer was going to have to go build that cart within the platform in order to be able to check out. And now, with an AI solution that can read PDFs and understand what they've purchased before and then build a cart for them, directly, within this demo we show. I think that the opportunities are huge for both B2C and B2B. I think the use cases are a little bit different. So like obviously B2C categories that, I call them the TikTok categories. It's like, let's call it fashion, apparel, anything that's like an impulse purchase where it's like you want one of them. Those lend themselves really well to like, I would call, say, the current era of like the guest checkout, unlogged in, version of, yes, I want to buy that thing. I'm impulse buying it, or I already know that I want that mascara that I always use. So like, I'll go ahead and impulse purchase it, with a thumbprint. I think that kind of use case is very straightforward and obvious when we think about agentic search and checkout. I think that the importance of the site will still remain. It's just going to be different experiences, like in the future, very near future. I think, when we start to think about what that experience will be, it will be very personalized because we will have so much richer context around what it is that they're looking for. And then we will be able to render these experiences. And we show that with the AI designer with MakeSwift in the demo that we show at Summit. So we're excited to kind of surface some of those new, beta releases on our side and some of the technology that we're bringing to the table to kind of unlock that next era of interaction and experience on either owned experiences or the data that powers those rich experiences on third-party channels. But I think the truths are, you can get started now. It sounds like a lot of like sci-fi, is coming down the pipe because a lot of it is like the newly imagined internet. But I think it's, you can get started now. You have the data. If you're a merchant, you're already sending data to Google, like send it to Perplexity, send it to ChatGPT, optimize the data on your .com that helps provide and answer questions that your customers have about your product, and your outcomes will be better, right? So I think it doesn't have to be scary. There's a crawl, walk, run associated with like, how do we go from this shopper to merchant to the agent to agent era? And I think, we're excited to be a partner that can kind of help articulate what the steps are at each stage of that kind of maturity. And I think, working with partners like you guys, we're excited to kind of see how everything unfolds in this kind of new era.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing with our clients is they're testing with AI, they're getting some traffic from LLMs, they're getting better converting traffic because of that. So, yep. The hypothesis is kind of like proving true. But I think everyone's really looking for just what else can we do? Like what are those things that we can do? And so I think that's where, the tech platforms like yourself providing those options is really important. So much, because I think there's a real willingness to get on board. And like you say, like just start with small steps, but like just get some momentum and start to see the results and start to kind of feel confident with all this new technology that's emerging.
Yeah, and I think we're uniquely positioned because we get to be in the rooms with the product teams of these channel partners, right? Yeah. So you can kind of see what's happening. And I think, our job is to make sure that we're representing the interest of merchants to say, hey, enterprise merchants really need this. They want to understand this. This is the data they need to make good decisions. This is the first party data they don't want to lose. They want to be able to offer loyalty programs and build cart. And, I think in this new era, there's a lot of fear around like, well, we're not really sure how it's going to happen. I think there's a lot of like, the AI search is really important, right? Like, oh my gosh, the eyeballs went there, so we need to optimize for that. I think we're seeing a lot of reticence, particularly also in kind of the, there's a lot of like legal and, data security things that need to get sorted out in order to make sure that all of us feel like we're having a good, trusted experience in the checkout with these new, kind of with that new era. So I think we'll see that go a little bit slower, especially regionally, depending on kind of what the regulation rules are by country. But I think I'm excited about it. I think, if we can remove friction and decrease cost by integrating AI into these shopping experiences, we all just get a better version of shopping on the internet. So.
Yeah, 100%. Very exciting. Well, I think we're at time, Sharon. You've been very generous so far. So we might leave it there. Looking forward to seeing you next week and hearing you speak more at the Big Commerce Summit or the commerce.com Summit. So I think you're going to have great weather. It's really cleared up nicely for you. So
excited.
You guys have timed it perfectly.
Yeah, see you soon.
All right, see you then.
Thank you.